most people just call me Justice because I'm also an artist. And that's my name that I sort of go by on that scale. I teach in pupil referral units with Matt Makes Music, and I've been doing that for about 6 years now. Different ones just in the West Midlands. I also do little freelance sessions here and there. For example, I'm working with a company called Hidden Voices, which is for female carers, some of which are elderly, and we do like a music therapy sort of situation for them where they get to create songs, etc. But in this session today, we'll be looking at beats and rhymes and lyrics. Now, another thing I'll tell you about myself, just to give you a bit of background, is that I've worked for places like Birmingham City Council, North London Music Academy, as well as the MAC. And I'm also an artist, like most of you probably are. So some of you are. And I've performed at places like the O2 Arena. I've done tours in Berlin, and I've also done a bit of acting. So I've done a film that was on cinema, a couple of independent films, and also done a documentary on Channel 4 with the National Film and Television School. I say all that to say that with COVID and the fact that we've all now become movie directors, making our own little tiny films, all these skills have somehow been able to be combined and used to facilitate these workshops online or in person that I've been doing and that you guys have obviously been doing as well. Just to kind of reiterate what everyone else has said, this is not a presentation. I will waffle on a little bit, but feel free to jump in, stop me. I talk very fast, so if you need to say, just slow down, I didn't know what you said, or put something in the chat, or, you know, feel free to just jump in, basically, and just cut me off. I'm totally free. So some of the things I kind of want to talk to you guys about today is things like beats, lyrics, rhymes, you know, the subject of the taboo subject of drill music, trap music, and grime music, which is young people love to do, which is very controversial for us as educators, and we don't want to sort of you know, have them say anything that's inappropriate or wrong, but we still want to do something that they're interested in. So I'm going to speak to you guys about different ways I tackle sort of dealing with that and different experiences. I do want to kind of open this up as a discussion, so my first question was going to be for you guys, which would have been like, what do you think of when you think of hard to reach young people? But by talking to quite a few of you as you've come in, you've definitely got experience with that. So I'd just like to ask some of you to share your experiences in working with hard to reach, SEM and SEMH, or working in pupil referral units. For example, I know Rachel says she does quite a few bits of work with young people that are hard to reach as well. So would anyone like to jump in and just let me know if you've got any experience with either pupil referral units or alternative provision or hard to reach young people? Don't all come in at once. Don't all come in at once. There we go. Helen's coming in.
Yeah, I think when I think about sort of hard to reach young people, I think most of my background is as a secondary music teacher. And so some of those people were in my classroom. I think that's the thing. So some of them were actually there or on the verge of not being there sometimes. Right. And I think that's another sort of aspect of this, is that some of those hard to reach young people are still in school and they're there in amongst the normal classroom, but still finding life difficult. So I sort of dealt with them and that was my experience with those sorts of children. We accessed the children like that. We engaged them through drumming work. We set up, I do Japanese taiko, and so we did a taiko group for our kind of sort of disengaged boys. That worked brilliantly. They just love it because it's like, it's energy and, you know, physical and it's musicals. There were lots of performance aspects there as well. So that was great. But I think for, I work for Derbyshire Music Hub, and we are now working with Pruse, and we're working in sort of alternative settings more now. We've not done it before. It's just not happened. I think our focus in the past has been about, you know, primary schools and it just hasn't been a focus. This year it has been a focus, and so our experience there, we've been working in an alternative setting, and it's been extremely successful. It's now in its 10th week, so it's all early days. We've done a sort of a one-to-one rock musician type program with guitars, keyboards, ukuleles, drums, and worked individually to start with pupils. We worked very, very much in tandem with the centre. They were brilliant at helping us get this project together. This is something we've learnt, is that we sometimes come in thinking, well, we're the music educators, so we'll come up with a product and we'll tell you what we should put in. And we've learned this is wrong.
Yeah.
And we do this completely the other way around now. So we ended up talking a lot with the centre, and you know, what did they want? What would work for them? How would their pupils? And that's the end. That was the only way. That's why it succeeded. That's why it succeeded.
I love that.
So this whole idea of, you know, we'll come in with a product, that's gone. And what we've developed is something that's started out with these young people who, the lady who ran the centre said, look, these kids can't work together. They just, their aim is to get them to work together, but they can't. They've been on their own too much, stood in a corridor, you know, kicked out of class or whatever. So we've worked with them individually. Over the 10 weeks, we've started to get them to put things together, and they're now working in small groups. We've got some working in pairs, some working in threes. You know, this is like major stuff, you know. They might only be playing a couple of chords, but they are actually playing together with someone else, and it's that kind of thing. So I think, for us, it's been a big learning curve about what are those outcomes, what do they look like, and we've been really big on student voice. I'm talking too much, sorry. We've been big on student voice.
It's great.
We've been really trying to get their feedback all the way through this, and we've had some great feedback from them, which has helped again guide where it goes next. I think one of the things that came out of it for me that was most important was that those children don't feel they have the next step in the progression route, that they feel like that project happens and then it stops for them. So lots of them said, I want to learn the guitar. You know, why can't I learn the guitar? You know, and actually the progression route is there for them within schools and within settings, but somehow they're not accessing it and they're not getting the information. So that's something for me to do in my job, is to make sure that they do. But so lots of things happening. So
that is perfect. You are just like so on track with everything that you've said, because I feel like your experience is so valid, especially being someone who's a musician and classically trained or trained in any kind of instrument is going to come in feeling like, okay, I'm a musician, I've got to teach you guys, you don't know what you're doing. These young people listen to a different genre of music than you do. They know what they want to hear. We forget that we watch films all the time and movies with music in it, so they do kind of know when things don't sound right, you know, and they might not have the motor skills, but they definitely do have opinions that we need to take, you know, seriously. And I think that's one thing I love about Matt Makes Music, is that we are very much youth led. So when I go into pupil referral units, I'll ask the young people what kind of music they're into. For example, I've just gone back into doing things in person now, just a little bit, just a tiny bit, and we've got into the King Centre in Erdington, and we were able to ask the young people to give me sort of an example of a song that they liked, and I took out sort of like the computer and just got them to play me a little sample, and it was good to hear their genre of music. And then what we actually did was, I work with music technology a lot, and I have an assistant that works with live music, so guitars, bass, cajon. I work with drum machines, Logic Pro, that kind of stuff, so we're a good mix. And we had half of the young people learn really basic chords, so we set the guitar to open chords, so whatever they play still sounds good. They're not going to be embarrassed, they're not going to think, okay, it sounds really bad in front of my friends. And also to get a standard drum beat, but we got them to play along to a song that they liked. Obviously, we'll talk about inappropriate and appropriate songs later on, because that's a nice little topic that we can delve into also. But we definitely got them to play along to something that they liked, and we got everyone to vibe together, which was a really sort of great thing to do. Like you said, it wasn't a case of, oh, they're not into this genre of music, so they're not going to want to play live instruments. Like, we have to give them a chance to explore. And when they realize that these genres of music have instruments in them, they're not just beats and bass, then they'll be more sort of inclined to get involved. So I feel like what you've done is perfect. Another thing that you talked about as well was authority. So just before I ask anyone else to jump in, I just kind of want to go back to one of the points which I wanted to make to you guys, which was the first thing I do when I go into a pupil referral unit or alternative provision is enforce the fact that it is a safe space. And one thing I do is basically clarify the fact that I'm not a teacher, I am a music leader. Now, yes, I do teach, but I am a music leader in terms of the fact that I'm an artist. I love music, and that's what I'm here to do, create and kind of have fun with these young people. And the reason I say that is because, Helen, you mentioned the fact that, you know, some of these young people are still in school and they're really struggling, and they have problems with authority and they have problems with structure, and they come into these pupil referral units with that chip on their shoulder, as in, I'm going to prove that I don't have to listen to you, and I'm gonna, you know, I've probably had bad experiences with authority before, and I'm, you know, you coming in telling me to do something is basically just reinforcing all that, and they go into fight or flight mode. And to get them to calm down is saying, listen, I'm just a singer, I'm a producer, I'm a rapper, I love music, I want to have fun, I want to know what you like, and I want to kind of vibe with you guys as well. So I hope you don't mind me mentioning Joe, but we talked earlier about one of the TAs that was in the back, and they were kind of just had their arms folded. I didn't really kind of get involved. And I think it's a case of everyone in the room vibing. Now, you don't have to be doing the latest TikTok dance to show them that you're down. But, you know, just the fact that you're having fun with your instrument and you're having fun with the music really does impact on how the young person decides to vibe with you. And we forget how much fun it is to jam, like you said, to play together and have that jamming session. One thing I will mention is the fact that one of the young girls was playing the guitar and she was playing a chord structure. And when she got to the third chord of a 4-bar structure, she basically lost it because she got it wrong. But I had to explain to her how well she'd done to learn those 2 chords and play on time with the rest of the group, which was amazing. And that she was actually being way too hard on herself. And I feel like these young people that are, and I'm probably preaching to the choir now, that are in teenage sort of years, have a 1-minute attention span because of things like Instagram and TikTok. It's like, if I can't get it right now, I'm terrible and I'm crap. And we forget how much fun it is to practice, how much fun it is to keep, you know, going through something. So I tell them, like, really easy analogies, as in, it's like a skipping rope. Like, you might not jump in the first time, but once you jump in, you just keep going. And, you know, you might trip on the rope, but just go again, which means the song is going to keep going. You know, you just got to keep playing it. You might get the chord wrong here and there, but you've got to carry on. And she really laughed and saw that she was taking herself a bit too seriously, and she carried on, and we were able to jam. So I've waffled on a bit. Did anyone else want to jump in there? I saw some hands.
Can I just say one thing before I shut up, Nicole?
No, please.
You said,
please, come on.
Sorry, you said there about this sort of the issues with authority. That's something that really came out of the project we're doing at the moment. And like I say, this is not me who's actually in there doing this project. We have a fantastic youth worker who is brilliant. He's just wonderful with kids. He's just fantastic. Exactly the right kind of character to work with children. He's just brilliant. But he says their most used phrase is, "I'm crap at this." He said, and they say it before they've done anything. He said, so they're walking into the room going, "I'm crap at this." They haven't even picked anything up yet. He said that their self-esteem is so low that they are like putting out their defense before they've actually done anything, just to make sure, you know. And he said the success has been that they've started to just do it less. That they're now turning up and they're not saying that before they've picked something up. But it's almost like automatic.
It is.
Which is really, really sad.
I totally agree. It's very sad. And, you know, it's a lot to do with their preconceptions of, you know, maybe they've been, you know, been put down quite a lot. And it could have been by, you know, authority figures. It could be by family members. You don't really sort of know their history. But they definitely do come in with a lot of low self-esteem, a lot of insecurity. And a lot of times I'll ask them to do something. I think my main thing, even though I'm letting you know, I tell them I'm not an artist, my main thing really is to let them know they've got a safe space. So that's just one way to do it. Another thing is to design this space as well, because I realize I'm dealing with a lot of social and emotional mental health, a lot of history that they, you know, they might not have had a chance to talk about. But one thing that Holly was really good at suggesting, actually, which is designing the space. So I'll come in and maybe I don't know if you have the freedom to do this at your settings, but I will move the tables in a certain way. Now, because of COVID restrictions, we've now had to have the table set up in a 2-meter sort of, you know, regimented way. So I'm not able to do it as much as I used to do. But what I would normally do is move the chairs away. If a young person comes in and sits at the back and doesn't engage with everybody and wants to kick a table for half an hour, I'm gonna let him do that just to get it out of his system. I have young girls that come in and roll their eyes at me and sort of suck the teeth and be like, F her, who's she, I'm not working with her, and, you know, throw something across the room and slap someone in the head and laugh and whatever else. And the TAs would jump in and be like, how dare you? Give Miss some respect. And I'm like, okay, we've got to take the miss out of it because that's messing with the whole authority thing again. I've got to let them get it off the chest. I'm not that sensitive. It's okay. I can take it. Just let them get it off their chest. So then finally we can have a authentic relationship that's built off them slowly putting down their barriers and me really celebrating the fact that they are opening up. And it could just be the smallest little thing. For example, a young girl I had the other day, the same one that sort of you know, rolled her eyes and whatever else. She wouldn't really talk, and I talked to her and she would talk to her friend and ask them for song selections, and she wouldn't say anything to me, but she told her friend. Her friend comes up to me and says, Miss, can I suggest another song? And I say, well, is it her song? Because if it is, yes, I would love to hear her opinion. She starts laughing and giggling. I play her song. After that, she realizes her thoughts and her opinions are valued, and she actually starts to open up and talk. And by the end of the session, she's playing the Kahan for like 30 minutes straight without me even having to say anything. She's just in a little rhythm, which is a really big achievement for me. So just to get kind of back to what you were saying, their self-esteem is very low. They also feel like they can't make noise in the space. So I'm not only saying it's a safe space as in, you know, what it looks like and the fact that, okay, I'm not going to put down too much authority on you, but at the same time, I'm letting them know that it's a safe space. So I'll give rules out to people as in, you're not allowed to disrespect other people. You're not allowed to physically disrespect anybody. If someone says something, don't laugh. So one child will say something, another child will go, haha, that's so silly. And I will straight away be like, no, you can't say that. And it helps them to know they'll be defended if they say something wrong, if they play a wrong note. I tell people, if someone plays a wrong note, please don't, you know, shout at them, because it takes a lot of courage to actually get on the piano. And, you know, for the first 2 or 3 weeks of a 10-week session, it's just getting the young people to be okay with putting their hands on a keyboard and making noise and not knowing what's going to happen. The anxiety they get from making mistakes is really a big deal, and they don't want to look bad in front of their friends, and they don't want to be embarrassed. And that's so big to their sort of self-esteem and their confidence level, especially as you said, Helen, we don't know in the past how many times they've been put down, how many times they've made mistakes. Sorry, Marcus, please do jump in.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's the whole low self-esteem thing is like what they see, what their perception of what music is and who music is for.
Yes.
A lot of what they see is highly polished, you know, no mistakes, it's all perfect. So I'm kind of not surprised that they have this total fear of making mistakes because they don't get exposed to the type of music which is about just having a go and messing about. And you know, there aren't many high profile examples of that. Everything that's high profile that they get exposed to is super polished. And so that's kind of where it comes from.
No, that's perfect. And what you said, you just hit the nail bang on the head, because like I said, you've got this 1 minute culture of, you've gone on Instagram, you saw someone who looks lovely, sounds lovely, they've got a record label that's helped them put together this 1 minute promo, and if they can't do that in a second, that's it. So what I get with drill, grime music, we are going to go around and ask anyone if they've got like any history with these subjects that we can all share together. But with drill, grime, hip hop, trap, the music that they like now has really complicated hi-hats in there. So if they're just trying out for the first time at how to use the equipment and have a go, they get really discouraged if they can't play something that sounds like their favorite track. So I've got loads of tips and tricks to show you guys on how to get around that and get them to make something that sounds good kind of straight away. And some of it is the cheats that you already know. So using apps that have pre-made chords already, you know, things like using a iPad with GarageBand with smart chords and things like that to help them out. Another thing I do just for drill music, trap music and things like that is the hi-hat patterns are quite complex. So what I'll do is I'll take, for example, maybe an 8-bar structure and put up a matrix grid, so put it up so you've got every tiny beat. And I'll show you that in a second in one motion. And basically fill all of those boxes, like from start to finish, so we just go and then take out a few, so you've got a little bit of a gap. and start to get them to vibe with it. And they'll let you know if it's terrible or not. Like they're not going to be ashamed to let you know, but it gets them to feel like they've made something that sounds something like what they heard, which helps to not knock their confidence. One of my go-tos is a drum machine called the XR20 drum machine, which is provided by Matt Makes Music. And it's really easy to use. It has really good sound effects. Like you just press a button and it's like, yeah, some really silly stuff that makes them all laugh and get involved. It's not so musically focused that you play and it's a chord. You play and it's literally sound effects. So just to get them to use the pads, like you said, have a go, make a mistake, press something, laugh, look around the room, press it again, press it harder, see what happens if they press it fast. And what I'll do is use this XR drum machine to not only practice making a beat, I'll make it very simple. One thing I was talking to Joe about earlier was the fact that I have sometimes TAs that either are very laid back or that they come in and take an instrument off the student and go, this is how you do it, and take a piano and suddenly wave their hair back and they close their eyes and they're gone. And the poor student's like, I can't do that. I'm just intimidated. So it's a case of making a beat so simple that they know they can do it, but also good enough for it sounds good, so they want to get it. And I suppose everybody uses their own sort of judgment to do that. But I feel like, Marcus, what you said about them having a go is one of the most important things I try and do in the first 3 weeks, is getting them to just come up, press stuff on the equipment, pick up a guitar, pick up a bass, slap the cajon a couple of times, see what it sounds like when you hit it in different places. But the fun of having music, and I feel like what you said about the fact that I suppose it's so packaged and polished now that only people with lovely voices and signed to record labels feel like they own music, whereas, you know, years ago we used music as a form of community. We would, you know, we sing at weddings, we sing at events, we sing at funerals, you know, we sing at family occasions, and we'd use music as a form of therapy. And that's what it is. Nobody owns it, it's ours. And I think it's the fact that we have to make these kids know that it's theirs, and we have to give it back to them and let them know that it's for them to have fun, not for them to, you know, try and package and sell to someone. There's no one else in the room but us. We can have fun, we can make mistakes. And one thing I do as well is I show my own vulnerability. So I play by ear. I know music theory, but very basic. I'm more music technology based. But I'll pick up a guitar. I put it on open chords and I'll try and play along with them. I'll say to them, oh, this is a song that you like. I'm just working out the chords now, just to let them know, okay, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning in real time, just as you are. And just to kind of let them know that it's okay for us all to experiment. So that's my 2 cents. Does anyone else want to jump in?
I was just going to. Hello.
Yes, Claire. Hi.
I suppose I have lots of thoughts about this because I lead a hub down in Dorset, and so I'm not in the classroom with kids myself, but we're trying to expand our work in this field. Mm-hmm. I suppose, like, without getting too deep, I think it's just this idea. We need to unpack what music education is. You know, I mean, everything we're talking about here, it's like, I want to see that from early years upwards, so that working in this way is not some new special novel thing that we do for those kids over there. It really is, like you said, Mark, it's breaking it all down. And I've got a very informal background myself, and I think I've recently felt more confident and emboldened myself to be like, you used to play for the BSO, brilliant, congrats, not the only way to do it. Look, this person has value as well, this person has value, this music has value. Yes. And we've really got to get that out there, because I just hope that we're not still having these same chats, because everyone gets a bit more free and open about their music making. Because I suppose what I was going to say about hard to reach kids, that they are genuinely hard to, like, genuinely, we can't get to them. And some of the structures, there's a lot of structural stuff that needs to be changed. And we have to, I think, there's a lot to do, but I appreciate this is more about actually in the classroom. And I think these really specific things you're talking about, Nicole, are really, really useful, because we need to take this great workforce of really experienced music educators and just give them these things, which, you know, it's not rocket science. They're capable of doing it. They've been educating to a high standard for a really, really long time. They just understand that they can add to their skills with some other approaches that will hopefully enhance the experience for everyone and all types of learners. So preaching to the choir, but I'll try and spread the word down.
No, it's not, I feel like this is what this is about, and I feel like we can all learn from each other's practices. Like I was saying, when only a few of us were on, sort of like Joe and Mason, that I know most of you are experienced practitioners and you're very good at what you do, and you obviously have talked to and worked with young, vulnerable young people, otherwise you wouldn't have an interest in being here. But I need to also, just like everyone else, always adapt. I think COVID's proved that we all need to learn new skills and adapt, like we never know what's going to happen next. But I never feel like I know it all. I feel like I've come to this session and I'm going to take away as much as I'm giving out to you guys, because we're all very valuable. And I feel like the fact that this is a music leader exchange rather than a presentation shows you how much value you all have individually and how important your presence is to this. Without you guys, there is no exchange. So I really feel like it's really important that we sort of learn from each other. I will give you guys tips and tricks on how I make these kind of tracks and different things that you guys can use in terms of music technology to actually engage with these young people as well. I'll tell you a little bit just about what I do before I go into what I use. And I've also got a couple of tiny short videos to squeeze in there. I'm probably only going to play a minute of each before we all like zone out. But I think watching a screen within a screen is like, so I'm not going to do that to you. Sorry?
Before you do that, I think Marcus just wanted to come in there.
Yes, Marcus.
I was just going to ask about the sort of difference between like doing stuff on Zoom and online, like we have been for ages, as opposed, it feels like a lot of what you're talking about is in the room
In person.
with people. Are you going to sort of talk about both, or is it for sort of where we're going to be in a few months, or?
No, I feel like we need to address both. And I was actually going to put this out to the room as well, because we need to make this a practical session. And what we're going through now is practically being online, being, you know, having separation anxiety from our lovely students, not being able to see them in person. I have been doing a lot of online videos for pupil referral units as well. I've had less interaction with them live online. So if you guys have more experience, please do feel free to, I'll open this up now actually, to share your experiences, because I feel like we all need to learn how to, you know, sort of improve the online experience. But what I've noticed from what I've done, which is pre-recorded videos, and the reason why is because, you know, in an alternative provision, we're not really sure who we've got, when we've got them, and we have to send these videos to the head, who sends it across to other, you know, teachers or TAs. So I've been making a range of videos, which I'm going to show you guys some of them in a second, actually, well, later on today. And it's going to show you different things I've been doing with them. So things like counting tempo. The good thing is, because it's online, I can share my screen. I can pull up different apps and different drum machines and really break down simple things that in the classroom I probably would have lost half of them, because, you know, they're off doing something. But on the screen, you know, I've had a chance to actually break it down and do things like how to count bars, which might sound like a really basic thing, but these kids really need to know from scratch, like how to do that. Tempo, arrangement. And I've also given them some online drum machines that they can use at home, which are free. So, for example, you know, I don't know if any of you are into music technology. I know like Jamila's pretty good with music technology as well. She uses Logic Pro. But for those of you who are not, you have to think about the young people that can't afford to use this kind of equipment, and the fact that we want to do a lot of music technology. And I am talking from kind of music technology and pre-school kind of basis here. And think about free things that they can use, are maybe apps, or maybe things like One Motion Drum Machine, which we're going to look at shortly, that they can do at home and that they can learn from as well. So I wish I had more experience to share with you guys about how I've been interacting with them on live and online. But to be honest with you, and totally real, I've been making a lot of pre-made videos based on the stuff that I would normally do in the classroom, but then trying to break it down really, really simply, and also share that online. So as you can see, I've got my green screen in the back, I've got my lights in the front, I put different pictures on at the back. Sometimes I'll put Logic Pro, make myself really small so you can see the screen, and I'm like pointing at stuff and talking. So I'm really conscious of getting their interaction and still being able to know that they've got a short attention span, but they like looking at screens, trying to make it really interesting, really, really simple, trying to still give them as much information as I can, but being aware that everybody's probably exhausted with doing stuff online by now. So not make the video 40 minutes long for a young person, but really pick out the key elements on what I need to use and what I need to give them. And also having a great assistant as well. I've got an assistant called Alex Lowe, who comes on and takes half of that. So it's good for the student to be able to see me and then also see somebody else with a different perspective. I'm going to open it up to everybody else to see. Can anybody else share any of their experience, maybe with working with hard to reach young people online? Don't worry if you haven't, Joe.
Hi. So not me personally, but I've got several members of staff who go into our, well, not the Prues, because we've only got a couple of those, but they work regularly with our SEMH schools, which are so very similar. So once they've gone through the Peru, they would get placed in the SEMH school,
Right.
So it's very similar cohort of children, young people, say children. Some of them are children, but mostly they're older. And what I have one member of staff who goes in and he delivers. I mean, he's fabulous. Actually, he's a one-man rock band. It's what the youngsters in this particular school are very into, that genre of music. So he goes in and he'll do some singing with some youngsters, keyboards with others, guitar with others, bass with others, drums with others, and he spends a good 4 hours there doing 1 to 1-ish, 1 to 2, depending on how the young people cope with that. So that would be his what he would normally do. Obviously, since March last year, that's not been possible. So what the school have done is, because the particular school that he works in, they have a residential unit now. I just feel for the families, but they've closed their residential unit down, so they've not been having the. I mean, it's dreadful when you think about the needs of these young people. But anyway, so they've got this empty unit. So they've basically set it up so that they've got the screen there, the cameras there, they've got all the kit out. And so Neil's been doing one-to-one lessons, and so the kids have been they've been walking across to the residential unit, having their drum lesson, their singing lesson, their keyboard lesson, and then going back. And I think there were some rocky starts. The young people, they found it quite difficult. And to be honest, Neil found it quite difficult to find his way, to find out the repertoire that was going to work, the activities that were going to be fun and engaging, and still, progress is going to be made. But they kind of persevered with it, with the support of the school. And I think this is where the key has been, is that because the school have been so supportive, they've been helping the young people to overcome the emotional responses to failing, that where, Neil would normally be there to say, it's like, the discussions you've had earlier, you can talk young people through that these emotional responses are kind of normal, and you can get over it. When he's not there, he can't do that. And so he's had some storming offs, and he's had some drum kits thrown at the camera and stuff. But the members of staff there are so good, and they don't automatically it's not an automatic recrimination. That's dreadful behaviour. That right, drums is cancelled this week. It's actually, let's talk this through. Let's work out why you've had this emotional response. With Neil's there on the other end of the, viewing all of this, unable to do it, but it's actually, they've worked their way through, and he's not getting those anymore. Do you know what I mean? They've worked. So I think it's about that team, that collaboration. It's about saying, okay, well, this is the situation we're in. How can we make it work, rather than saying we can't possibly make it work.
I love that. That's brilliant. I think I'll just jump in just to say everything you said is brilliant, and thank you for sharing, because I feel like we all need that, and we're all kind of really struggling online at the moment. Even though I haven't had a lot of experience with the pupil referral units online, I do have other organisations that I work with online. And one thing I've been able to do is, one, you just have to kind of say, okay, we're going to have latency issues, like no matter what happens. Stuff's going to freeze, stuff might not work, it's going to be okay. And I think we have to kind of get over that barrier, because it's something that if we've got a lesson plan and we've got something going on, it can be very, very frustrating and very disturbing to the session. So people will freeze, people will crash. Sometimes I have to come back in. Another thing I've been able to do is make instrumentals and share them via Zoom using the onboard sound on Zoom. So for example, people muting, but also being able to sing along to stuff that I've made at home by having it in real time, and not have the latency issues by muting themselves and just playing an instrumental, but then singing along and only hearing me. So that's another thing I've been able to help myself with. Also, songwriting has been a very good tool for me during the whole COVID and lockdown. So I've been able to write songs with them online with a lot of the groups. And one thing that really helps me, and I'll probably share this one mostly with Marcus, is things like color coding. So I'll color code lyrics for the young people and for the other people that I work with, and just whatever they need to actually, whatever line that they're going to say back. I'll make sure that it's color coded. So not only just say, oh, this, you know, the name and the line, but the color actually helps them just to not only focus on the screen, but it's another way of getting that sort of information in and get them to pick the color. So it's the color that they like. And it's almost like I'm doing color therapy as well as music sort of therapy as well. And because of latency issues, I've been writing songs, but getting them to say the lyrics back like poetry instead of singing, because we have, I know some other teachers, and I've seen some of the other musical exchanges, I found really creative and amazing ways. I think Helen, actually, I think I saw you in another one. You talked about an app for online choirs, or yeah. And I know you guys have got really, really creative ways of how to do structure that. But what I've found is I've just got everybody to repeat the lyrics back as a poem rather than as a song to get over some of the latency issues. So those are just some of the small technical things that I can add. Would anyone else like to jump in with any tips or experience about what they've done in
I wanted
teaching
to just
online?
come in actually, because a lot of what Joe said really chimed. I mean, some of the other members of the team, like Anne Nicole, you'd know, she's working with primary pupil referral units, so primary age young people, and she's sort of hopefully going back in soon. But it's been quite challenging because there's been a group at the centre and then individuals at home, and the centre, we wanted to try and include everybody, so that's involved like online sessions on Microsoft Teams with a class chunk in one space and then individuals from home, and it threw up challenges that we kind of hadn't really had to consider before, in terms of like the other young people seeing everybody else's home spaces
Right.
and what their lives are like, and how all their house is really small, or why is it so messy, or what's going on there, or why is the brother running around without any clothes, you know, that there's been lots of different things that have appeared. And then you could, the family dynamic has been really interesting and quite difficult to manage. And then young people who, also it's been really beneficial, because young people who have had exhibited certain behaviors at school, we've seen whether or not they do that at home, and whether or not there's triggering things at school and in sort of institutions, or whether that's just how they are. And we've had a mixture of the two, and things been like, oh, this makes so much sense now why they do it like that, because that's how things are at home. And it's been really eye-opening. But in terms of like actual delivering stuff, we've kept things really short for that primary age group. The sessions were like 15 minutes max, and then everybody's had a really positive experience and been able to leave it there, we'll see you again next week type thing. So that's what some colleagues have been doing. But yeah, thinking about things like one young chap, everything was risk assessed, and it was fully supported by the centre, but at home refuses to wear clothes apart from pants. That's all he would wear. And managing that and just try, you know, and everybody else's sort of experiences has been very interesting coming up. So the online and in-person worlds merging has been, yeah, interesting to say the least. And yeah, thank goodness for pants, at least he has.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I love that. I feel like well-being is a really big deal at the moment, especially because of everything that everyone's going through. So I know it's really hard, and there's so much to consider with, you know, I like the fact that, you know, you were able to kind of look at the students' background when they were at home and kind of see where some of these things derive from, because being in a pupil referral unit, we only see them then and there, and we kind of don't know. And as much as we hear stories, or we know certain things happen, it's nothing like just seeing it, you know, for yourself, and being able to kind of consider and use that. But I think I'll just use that as a segue to go into like our own well-being. So sometimes I have people shadow me in pupil referral units, and they'll come and they'll say, oh, what do you think I should do? What are the kids like? Is it scary? Yes, I've had chairs thrown at me. I've had all kind of weird stuff, which we'll go into in a bit, which I'm sure Joe will understand, and everybody else. I'm like preaching to the choir. But so one of the things, I've lost my whole little train of thought, I do apologize. Is a well-being that we need to have for ourselves. So I always say to the people that shadow me, like, have you eaten today? Did you get a good night's sleep? They'll say, what do I need to prepare for the session? I'll literally be like, get a good night's sleep and eat breakfast. And they'll be like, what? I'm sure I need to do something. I'm sure I need to research or download an app or something. I'm like, no. These young people come in with so many sort of different, not only just emotional needs, additional needs, different things that we're not aware of, and things that they might have, low self-esteem, etc. That if we're on edge, they're really going to respond to how we feel. So if no one wants to go in a room with someone who's really tense, and I know I'm definitely preaching to the choir with this one, but if you've had a really bad day and someone's just annoyed you, you don't want to sort of go and teach a class with vulnerable young people, because they'll feel that you're tense, they'll feel something's wrong with you, and they don't know what's wrong. They just start to think, oh, it's them, and it must be something they've done, and they'll react by them being negative or then withdrawing. So I always ask us to really, really look after our own kind of mental well-being at the moment. And referring that to online, I would just say make sure that you take regular breaks, you drink a lot of water. If you can get a screen protector as well that just blocks some of these blue rays. I haven't done a lot of research, but you can tell I'm waffling on. But protect yourself, get out there, make sure you have walks in between sessions if you can, open a window. It might sound like the smallest thing, but our concentration and our well-being and how we come across really does make a difference to these young people who are looking for every tiny sign. They might have people in their family that don't communicate with them, but they know if their dad or their mom or someone's upset, and they suddenly close up because they're like, oh, I'm in a room and so is upset. And I've been around people like that are really sort of angry, and you sort of don't know what to do, and it's very awkward. And we have to still be very open. And one of the things that we can do without even realizing it is just be hungry and be a little bit ratty, and that to them transfers to something completely different as it would to somebody who was just like, oh, well, so-and-so must be tired, or, they're not looking at all the social aspects that we would normally see. They're just thinking about how you react to them. I think one of the other challenges I face is attendance. So I was talking to Jo earlier, and she said she gets to be with her students from they're 4 years old to, when was it, 19? Sorry, you're muted, lovely.
19.
That I envy, because we're in these people referral units. Sometimes I'll have a young person for like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month. Sometimes they'll go and they'll go back to school, which is great for the school and good that they're back in school, but I won't see them. And then something will happen and they'll be right back. So building a relationship based on consistency is something that I find really hard, which is why I have a lot of sort of icebreakers. I have a lot of activities that they can do practically, but they don't have to think too much. I feel like when we leave them alone with their thoughts, like you said, they're very insecure, they've got low self-esteem, and they're going to start thinking about things. So as much as I say it's child-led and I want to have fun, I do still have structure. Now, the reason I have structure is because a lot of the young people I work with, yes, Marcus, jump in.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question about your tech setup, because when I first started running music technology workshops back in the 90s, and I had sort of loads of MIDI gear plugged in, and I had like 6 different stations. So somebody would be on a drum machine, and somebody would be like the master controller on the faders of the mixer, and someone would be on effects or whatever. Someone had a mic, but obviously it's quite sort of labor intensive. Like that means sort of packing down my entire studio. But just in terms of how many people, like a lot of kids have iPads these days or phones. Like, do you do sessions where people can just bring their device and plug it in and join in a group setting? Because like, how do you tackle that sort of amount of kit for the amount of kids?
Okay, so last year, well, before COVID, pre-COVID, when the world was normal, I was carrying around a suitcase full of equipment, which Holly can testify to. And in that suitcase was a laptop, a drum machine, a small MIDI keyboard, 2 sets of headphones, 3 iPads, a mini rig speaker, so a tiny portable speaker. I think I had about 2 or 3 of those. I'd also have a looper, a drum looper as well, which I carried in a separate bag. Yes, I was weighed down with a lot of equipment. Don't ask me how I did this. Then all the wires that you needed in the world. So loads of jack-to-jack leads, XLR leads, etc. And then any other tiny little bit of equipment I could use. My basic setup was this: a laptop, a drum machine, the keyboard, and 3 iPads. Those were my main, and the speakers, portable speakers. Those were my main things. Now, the reason why is because portable speakers are essential. Most schools I go to have no equipment at all, so I'm setting up everything from scratch. My main best friend was my extension lead and my mini jack. Without those 2 things, my life was over. And I used to set them up at the front of the actual classroom, and I used to ask the young people to come and sit around me. It's before social distancing, so don't jump in with the whole 2 meters before that, and get them to sit around me, and they used to take turns in using the drum machine. So like we said, breaking the ice, making noise, tapping on samples, etc. And also I used to set up Logic Pro, set up simple apps like Alchemy, which has sounds that have heavy arpeggiators. So I'll press one note and it will go ding, 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 ding for ages. So they don't have to be able to play a chord. They can literally play one note and get a pretty good sound. And I'd get them to come up and literally just press and play about with different notes. My go-to would be the fact that on the XR drum machine, I can always make a really quick, simple beat and then show them how to record it as a loop. And then I'll show the whole class this and get everyone to come up and do it individually. I then get the class sometimes to clap along to the tempo so the person knows when to put what where. So we might ask them to make a drum beat. Some of these young people probably haven't seen what a drum kit is, or what's a hi-hat, what's a snare, where's it supposed to go. So simple things like counting the bar, counting 4 bars, saying the kicks on the 1 and the 3, the snares on the 2 and the 4, getting the whole class to clap 1, 2, 3, 4, then getting the guy in the drum machine to go 2. So is that right, miss? 2, and jump in. Really simple, but also teaching them really basic music theory as I was carrying on. So that was like my basic go-to. I then, like you said, advanced to the point where the people that were interested, I would get them to take the controls of Logic Pro. So I'd be like, you're the engineer, you sit down. Most important thing I teach all the young people is how to save, because their poor hearts, when the computer crashes and they've spent all this time learning this one chord and now it's crashed, is too much for my heart. So I teach them that straight away, how to save. And so no matter what, they at least know that they've got the mouse, they've got the control, and it wouldn't be the mouse, it'd be the laptop. So I teach them, first of all, motor skills. Sounds silly, but some are used to using a mouse. If they haven't had a Mac, they don't know they've got to like spread their fingers to move around the screen. Sounds really small, but little tiny things to get them to feel comfortable. And once someone was confident, they take it in turns to, one person would choose the sound on Alchemy. So that I'd bring up the Alchemy, they'd go around, choose the sound. The other person would press it on the keyboard. So I've got 2 people now controlling the actual computer. I've got somebody else on the drum looper, and I've got GarageBand set up on the iPads with smart drums, smart piano, smart bass, with pre-made chords that the young people can play along to very, very easily. So if I say I've got a chord structure and it's D, G, C, G, and everyone's playing along, then they're just literally going around the chords. The person's playing along to the beat, and we're all in time, we're all jamming together. And at the same time, I'm recording. Now, on the apps as well, I also have 3 or 4 different apps that I would use. And what I would do is get them to use pre-made loops in those apps, play something that they liked, get the confidence up, like, yeah, miss, this is really good. I made a house tune in like 30 seconds. Then I take a mini jack, plug that into my sound card, which I use a Focusrite sound card from Matt Makes Music, and record that into Logic as well. So now they've contributed to the session by whatever they've done on the actual iPad. So everybody's involved in the recording. That was pre-COVID. Now I have an assistant called Alex Lowe, who's not actually an assistant anymore. So let me correct myself. He's now my co-music leader, which is great because he actually does take on half the weight of the class. Now he is a live musician and instrumentalist. Yes, I'm going to put the apps in there for you now, Katie. I'll do that now. He is an instrumentalist, so he plays guitar, he plays bass. He's actually a drummer, and that's his main thing, which is brilliant, because normally I do drums and music technology, and he's actually now doing guitar and bass, which you probably wouldn't have done so much of if it wasn't for the fact that I've already got the drums going and the drum machine and whatever else. Now, what we do then is, like I said, we'll play probably a instrumental. So how I get around inappropriate lyrics, I'm trying to speed this along because I haven't got that much time, is I play an instrumental. So if they like drill or they like trap music, I will get a trap or a drill instrumental. You don't want to put on a song because God knows what you're going to hear, you poor things. Save your ears. But you do want to put up an instrumental because then you get the vibe of it, you get the chord structure. What you need to do is use your music skills. So you guys are trained musicians, you know how to work out a chord structure. You might not like drill or grime or know what it's about, but you can hear the chord. You know if it's C major, D major, F sharp, whatever. So just listen to it and replay that and get them to replay the chord. When it comes to drum drum beats, one thing I do to get over the confidence of not being able to play something and feeling embarrassed is by knowing that they need complex hi-hats in most of the genres they like. So I would pull up One Motion or pull up a drum machine and get them to program the drums. It's important that you explain to the young people these hi-hats are programmed, they're not played. But if a young person tries to play the hi-hats how they hear it, they'll get very discouraged because no human being can play that. It's the computer. Not even me, nobody who's a drummer can do it. It's literally just programmed. And just to break it down as well, when it comes to grime, bass, trap music, it's the hi-hats and it's the 808 sub bass that they really like. So the 808 goes along with the kick, and that's the sub bass. Now, it could sound like I'm just talking a lot of weird stuff now, but I'm going to show you a tiny video which explains what I mean. Would you guys mind if I just share a couple of videos on techniques and stuff that I use? Is that all right with you guys? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, while I show you the videos, I shall get the name of the apps as well for you guys. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So if I look somewhere else, it's just because I'm trying to set this up. So bear with me real quick. Drill instrumentals. Okay, I think this is right. 4 minutes in. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I'm going to show you a drum machine called One Motion. Now, this is a free drum machine you can just get online, which means the young people can go home and practice this as well. And practice makes perfect. They'll be happy to, you know, learn a bit more at home and maybe be more confident when they come back to the lessons. But this also explains a little bit about drill music. Does anyone know anything about drill before I press play? Drill, grime, trap. Looking at me like, what I'm talking about? No worries. Right, so drill is a genre of music that young people, mostly in pupil referral units, are into. And I'm going to just play you a tiny bit of a video which explains a little bit about drill music. And this is One Motion. You can get it on onemotion.com. So share the screen, see if this works.
Yeah, it's kind of different in Scotland. I think there's not so much of a drill trap scene up here.
Oh, that's good. You're lucky. Oh. Right then, so this is a little bit about drill. Hi guys, in this session we're going to be looking at how to make drill drum patterns in One Motion. Let's go. Now, there's a few key things you need to make a drill or a grime beat, especially any kind of trap or drill kind of music. One is got to be the right tempo. So the right tempo for drill and grime music is between 130 to 140 BPM. What we normally do is play the drum in half time, which I'll explain to you in a little bit what that looks like. So it sounds a lot slower than it actually is, but the beats per minute, which is the tempo, which is how many beats there is in 1 minute, is 140, so it's actually quite fast. And that's why we get the speed we do within the hi-hats and the snares and the different effects and stuff that we use. Number 2 is an 808. So an 808 is a drum sound you'll hear in a lot of grime and a lot of drill tracks. But what that does is enable you to have more of a bass, so you hear the kick and then you hear a boom, 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 boom. That boom sound you hear is not just the kick drum, that's actually the kick drum along with an 808, which gives it a lot of a bassier sound. In One Motion, we don't have 808s, and when it comes to the hi-hats, we can't break them down as small as we normally would do in Logic or in GarageBand. So in One Motion, what will happen is it won't be able to break it down small enough for you to hear the intricacies of the hi-hats that are normally in grime or drill. However, don't be disheartened, because you can use One Motion to get the feel of your drill, grime or trap beat, and I'm going to show you how. So if we look at One Motion now, you'll notice that when you're making a drill track, the kick is not going to be where it is in a standard hip hop track. So in a hip hop track, you've got the kick on the 1 and the 3. With drill, we're going to try and use the kick to push the actual song. And I'm going to play you an example now. So we've got the kick on the 1, and then on the 4, we've got it on the 4, and we've got it in between 4 and 5. So we're going to play that for you now. So I'm going to count that with you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just to give you guys an idea, what I've done is put the kick on the 1, and then on the 2 and the 3, I've left it completely blank. But on the 4, I've put it on the 4 and the and. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what I've done is put it on the 1 and the 4 and. So we're going to count that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. So you can hear them in between. Now what I've actually done is use a drum beat to actually push the actual song. So it's going to go bum, 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 bum. And what I've done is use the last 2 kicks to actually join with the first one. So if you listen to it over time, you'll hear boom, boom, boom. But that's only after listening to it the second time. So this is what I've used to drive. Boom, boom, boom. 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 So what we're going to do now is look at the snare. Now, all I did was put the snare on the 3. So it still gives you a lot of space. And this is because even though it's 140 BPM, the snare and the kick are almost played at half that tempo to get more of a groove. So listen to that now. Cat, boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Cat, boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Cat, boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. And that's to emphasize the actual drums and also to give it space. You want that space so you can flow in between and you can take your time when you're writing your lyrics. Now we're going to move on to the hi-hat. So like I said before, we're not going to be able to break the hi-hats down to as much of an intricate and complex pattern as you're used to hearing. But I'd like to tell you guys that it is about the actual pattern and not about how many times you hit the hi-hat. So some people just put the hi-hat in and they'll put it in as many times as they can and it sounds like tick, 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 which is fine, but really a hi-hat needs to have a pattern. So even though you can't get it as fast as you would like, what I'd like you to do with one motion is practice having a pattern for your hi-hats. And the pattern's going to be something where the hi-hats land, not where the kick is, not where the snare is, but in their own time and in between. So we're going to listen to these hi-hats. I've only put in a few, but enough for you to get a little vibe. So listen to this now. So we got ba 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 da. Ba-da, ba-ba, ba-da, ta-da, ba-ba, ba-da, ba-ba, ba-da. Now, one thing you can actually do is find one of your raps, find one of your rhymes, even if it's a popular drill artist that you like, just find someone's flow and try and flow on top of this. So if I was going to freestyle over it, so I'm just going to do like a couple little bars. If you rap one of your own lyrics over this beat, you'll know where it goes. You'll know if it's in the right pattern. And if it's not, simply just move some kicks and snares around. So if I said, they must be balmy, they can't par me, I'm not no Barbie. Say they want to talk, but I'd rather walk than jump in your Rari. You can just think of any lyrics that you'd rather have, and I'm just making them up from the top of my head. But see if it goes to the flow of that beat, and you'll know whether you need to put in an extra kick, an extra snare, or whether you can put in extra hi-hats as well. So with the hi-hats, it's mostly about finding a groove, and all of these beats that you're making is about you finding a groove. The most important thing, whether you got loads of hi-hats, loads of snares, or loads of kicks, is that you have a pattern that you like and you can vibe to. I'd like you to put on a drill track that you like, find the kind of vibe and the groove, even if it's just a couple of lines, 2 lines, and then try and make a beat that goes with those 2 lines so you can find your bounce on your groove. Don't forget that as much as it's about technique, it's also about you just grooving and finding a groove. If you can nod your head to it and you can rap to it, then it's a good beat. I hope that helps. And we're now going to move on to Alex, who's going to talk to you about J Dilla. He's not going to talk to you about Jay there because I'm going to stop the video there. Has anyone got any questions from that video at all? 5 minutes left. Oh my God. So I just realised the time. Sorry, Holly. Got any questions at all? No. I know we've got 5 minutes left of the formal session. What I'm going to ask Holly to do is send you around a list of the apps and programs that I use, because I'm trying to put them in, but I'm really conscious of time as well for people that need to go. So I know you've all requested that. So sorry, Helen and Katie, I'll definitely get those to you by the end of today. I'll get Holly to send them all around. And what I'll do is give a list of actually links as well where you can download them. So I'll make that a lot more accessible for you as well. Sorry, Jamila, did you have something you wanted to say?
Sorry, I'm going to have to go, but thank you, Nicole. That was great. That was really useful. And bye, everyone. See you again soon.
Thank you, Marcus. Bye.
Cheers.
Oh, sorry. I know you said you were going to have a list of the apps, but are there any other free ones as well as OneMotion? I know there's Audacity or.
Yes, there's Audacity, there's OneMotion. There's quite a few free ones actually, like one that's at beat pads, drum pads. So the ones I'm going to send you are all free. I'm not going to send you anything you have to pay for. You literally just have to go onto the App Store and download them onto your phone or iPad, and you'll have them. So don't worry, I'll send you a complete list. Is there a possibility of watching you once lockdown is lifted? I'm in Worcester. Craig, hi Craig. Craig wants to know if there's a possibility of watching me once lockdown is lifted. I would love that. You need to talk to Holly Radford, which is our program director. She's over here on my screen. I don't know where she is on yours. Like, but if you liaise with Holly, Holly will be able to direct you on any possibilities for any kind of shadow work. I think I'm going to leave that to Holly to distribute. Someone's got to go. Thanks very much. Thank you. Sorry to those who have to go. I'm just reading the chat to see if I forgot anything. Just to let you guys know that I do use Logic. Drop me a message. There we go. Craig, Holly's put her details in the chat, so please do grab that. I do use GarageBand and I use Logic. I use Logic a lot with the young people. I use GarageBand with them because it's an app they can get on their phones and it's free as long as they've got an iPhone. So we might think young people haven't got that technology, but somehow they're luckier than I was when I was their age, because they've got iPads, they've got at least iPhones, some of them, and they can actually get access to that as well. OneMotion is for normally people who haven't got any technical equipment at home at all. They're just going to log into a PC or a Mac. OneMotion, even though it seems like a really simple drum machine, they can do quite a lot of complex stuff on there. And it's nice if you want to teach them things like how to count bars, how to speed up and slow down tempo. Sorry, Mason, do you want to say something?
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to ask if you've got a GarageBand equivalent for Android, because I've sort of struggled to find something that, you know, that works, because obviously not everyone's got Apple devices.
Yes, you know what? Thank you for reminding me about that. I will send that in the link as well. I'll just make a note to give you something that's in GarageBand. I don't think I'll get something that is as good as GarageBand, unfortunately. I just feel like Apple's has kind of got the niche when it comes to GarageBand. But there is other apps that you can use that you can actually put beats in as well as chords as well. So I'll send you a few links for some Android stuff as well. I'll just make a note of that for you now, Mason.
I could just come in there. I haven't got a solution, but we've been doing some work with the youth offending service, and some of the young people just don't have like anything, so they've been able to provide like a laptop or a phone or something with like a data stick, but what has worked quite well is just sharing screen, and it's not quite the same as doing it yourself, but co-producing with a music leader and making all of the choices, so that all they literally need to do is just to get onto the call online. Don't need to worry about finding a browser or downloading anything. So sharing screen and showing like on Logic, okay, well I can add this in and I can record your audio so you can rap over the top, but not making it too complicated might also work as well, just to say.
Yeah, I'd like to sorry, Claire, did you want to say something?
Well, briefly, I don't know, a lot of talk about BandLab. I haven't used it a lot myself, but that's something that seems to be quite accessible on an Android. It's worth checking out if that might be helpful, because I think that's free. I was going to ask a bit of a general question. I don't know if this is to follow up later. It's just about building a rapport like online. If you don't know the young person, particularly when they might be a young person with difficulties, just say if anyone had any hints and tips, because I think that's a position we're in, trying to start a project during this time when you haven't got an established relationship. Yeah, any top tips?
I can come in about. Oh, sorry.
Holly, no, go ahead, Holly.
I was just going to say about this youth offending stuff. We've just that's quite a new thing, and that started throughout lockdown. And a couple of things have been quite tricky to manage, making it really clear for the young people of why it's their choice to take part, because they're being offered it through the youth offending service, which is something they have to engage with through their court order, and then making it really clear the distinction. We're here because we'd like to make some music with you. We want to get creative and have fun. It's not part of your court order. You don't have to do it. And making that really clear is a start to build the trust and to look to be different from the youth offending officer. We've scheduled in, so we had like really short getting to know you Zooms where there was no expectation at all to do anything musical, but let's just have a chat, see where it goes, and splitting the musicians' time. So instead of like doing an hour, it's sort of, you know, between 15 minutes and half an hour, and people can come on, and then, well, how did you find that? You're getting along with so and so, let's do another one. And sometimes like some of the team have used that, and that they have really kept to conversations, finding out what they like, don't like, what they're into, do they like gaming, and other people have had like, you literally 5-10 minutes, clicked, made that connection, and got straight into lyric writing and song making online. So yeah, I think carving out some time just to get to know people, and making it really clear to everybody involved there is no expectation to come away with like a finished track or a verse or a lyric at the end of this time. Another thing we're doing is some mentoring stuff as well, and we've asked people for referrals for that, and that's gone through like education settings or music hubs or like the youth offending service. And where we know that they've perhaps already got a musical link, we've managed to find a bit of budget to keep that person there. So there's 2 young chaps who've been referred to us from a pupil referral unit in Coventry. They're already working with a musician, so we're paying for that musician to come along too as the familiar, friendly face. So we don't have to sort of spend. We've only got like 5 sessions with these young people for that pilot for this mentoring thing, but then we don't have to spend 2 or 3 weeks, you know, breaking down barriers, building up trust, because they're there with somebody friendly, and they've had the choice with that as well. So do you want Joe to come along because you've worked with Joe for 2 years and you know him really well? Joe's gonna come and we're gonna meet a new, like one of Joe's colleagues, and we've kept it quite choice. I think I keep coming back to choice.
Thanks ever so much, everybody. I've got to go. Great session.
Helen.
Thanks a lot, and I'll see you again soon. Okay.
Take care. Thank you, Helen.
Bye.
And thank you, Ben, as well.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
Well, we've got till 12 to carry on chatting, so feel free to just unmute yourselves if you want to, if those of you who can stay.
Yeah, I would say in terms of the engaging as well, Claire, I think like we were talking before about sort of having a go and not being afraid to sort of do stuff. I feel like we have to sort of give them the opportunity and the chance to pick up things. For example, I was in a pupil referral unit, and as much as some people would say, you know, the young people were into sort of like hip hop and etc., and one of the young people started singing "I Want It That Way" by the Backstreet Boys, which is like one of my favorite songs, low key. And I started joining in, and we all started singing it. And then I had someone who shadowed me. He plays a violin, and she learnt the melody and played along with the violin. A week after that, I had someone come in with a double bass. And what was really interesting is some of them have never seen a double bass in person. They didn't know what the strings were made out of or anything. They were horrified to find out. It was hilarious. But it was really good to give them that experience that they would have never had before, because we just assume that they're into a certain genre of music, or they assume that they only want to sort of do certain things when we're not opening up to give them sort of opportunity. So as much as it seems scary, and I know there's no immediate right answer, I really feel like it's really important to experiment as much as possible. I feel like that's where I've really learned most of my techniques from, is by trying stuff out. If I didn't have this lovely teacher come in, Maya, with the violin, the young people would have never had a chance to do that. And also singing lessons is something I do. I'm a vocal trainer as well, so I offered singing lessons, and normally it's something that, you know, people would think the young people would shy away from, but the boys were actually the ones that were more vocal in the class, and they sang quite a lot of R&B songs that are way before their time. I didn't even know they'd know about popular songs as well, which are really fun, you know, a Bon Jovi song here and there that they probably heard on an advert or something. But it became really interesting just to get very diverse with popular music as well. One thing I normally do to get their attention is I would make a sort of drum beat that sounds like hip hop, or sounds like, you know, hip hop with complicated hi-hats or whatever it is, and then add something else like a salsa rhythm in there, you know, something really simple. And I'll go back to the basics, like I don't like chicken, I like potatoes, like that kind of silly rhyme. Get them all to laugh and joke and say how silly it is. and then get them to clap along and get them to actually fuse two genres of music together. So that's how I've been able to introduce them to different things in the past, is by saying, okay, we're going to add salsa to hip hop, we're going to add this Latin vibe over here, or actually we're going to add something really soulful, but we're going to take the beat out completely and we're going to put chords in there, and we're going to see if we can make the piano have a rhythm. So we're still nodding our heads, but there's no beat, but we can still feel that there's a rhythm, just to get them to know that it's just not just the drums that have to have a pattern or a beat, you know, it's everything, and get them to kind of strum along to different instruments as well. So experimentation has been really key for me. I don't know if anyone else wants to kind of jump in with anything else. I'll just see if there's any other notes I've kind of written down but not had the time to share with you guys.
Musical, it's interesting what you said about you know, assuming what you think young people might like. I know there's been a couple of occasions where a number of young people haven't turned up at the centre on a particular day, and that's actually been worked out really well, because there's been a one-to-one that's been spontaneous with a young person who for weeks has said, like, I really like drill because everybody else likes it in the group, but actually was a kind of a secret heavy metal rocker, but was embarrassed about it and didn't really want to tell everybody. But once he kind of had said that, and the musician, I think it was Sarah Wilson,
she's brilliant.
and she was like, that's amazing, and then they made some music together, and then he was a lot more confident and started playing guitar in front and bass in front of the others. But musical identity is so tied up in like peer pressure and how you're perceived and stuff, so it's worth bearing in mind.
Definitely. I have that so much. Sorry, Claire, do you want to say something else?
I was just going to say, because I think Marcus mentioned it, because I do, you know, again, we're in rural Dorset, which no matter what we say, it's, you know, it's not ethnically diverse or urbanly placed in any way, but of course we know that we're not delivering any support for various genres of music at all, so there's no harm in us all getting upskilled and increasing our knowledge. But it's like you say, it's this assumption. I think, like you said, there's no harm in us definitely learning more about contemporary British music genres that young people are likely going to be into. But like you say, don't be, like you say, they might be metalers, they might be into pop, they might actually really desperately want to learn about the violin, but no one's ever given them the chance. You know, it's so difficult. And I love that idea of being creative and mashing it all together, because again, I'm always thinking of the big picture, because we want to try and change the whole blooming system. Music is music is music, so let's try and not get hung up on all of that, you know.
No, I would say, you know, if you play the oboe, you know, put on a drum loop and play the oboe to the drum loop. You know, I would be like, if you play a trumpet, or trombone, get a drum loop up from GarageBand, something you don't have to think about that says hip hop on it or whatever, and then just play your trombone. Like, it's really about them getting some music that sounds good and you using the skills that you already have. It's not something that's unconventional, and it's remembering, like you said, music is music is music. So even if someone doesn't think that they can sing well or in key or on pitch, doesn't mean that they shouldn't enjoy a good sing along when it's, you know, they need to. And we forget that we're really there to do music therapy, which means they've got to have fun with the music. Like, that's the whole point. So if we're thinking too much about music structure and musicality, we're forgetting about fun completely. Like, but some of the most brilliant sing-alongs I've had is, you know, I don't know, when I was younger, leaving a club and then someone sings one of the songs that made the whole club go crazy, and we're walking down the street all out of tune and, you know, singing the stupid thing to ourselves. It's not really about, like you said, we'd have to get back to this thing of taking ownership of music as well. And it's not just what the young people think, but I suppose us as also practitioners is what we really consider music to be. But please do share your skills, and don't assume these young people don't want to learn what you've got to teach them, because I spent 6 years doing nothing but music technology, as well as, you know, there's still guitar sounds, for example, on Logic, etc., and I'm going to put in chords and structures, etc. But I can't explain to you how lovely it is to have live music there now, and have live instruments, and have Alex support me, and have the enthusiasm from the young people that go, oh, is that guitar? I played something like that when I was 6, or I played a ukulele, but I've always wanted to play guitar, or what is that? Is that a bass? What does it sound like? And just literally just grab it because it's there. And if it wasn't there, they wouldn't have had the opportunity. They wouldn't have, you know, come forth. And now, you know, if it wasn't for child protection, I'll show you the lovely video we had where we were always like jamming together. But it's just to show you that, you know, some of these young people have never met me before, never seen each other before. Some of them were new to the centre. And by the end of the session, we were all jamming. One was playing the cajon, one was playing the guitar, one was playing the bass. So one was on the drum machine, and the other one was off writing lyrics, which I had to amend. But they were writing lyrics, they were engaged. And I think, like I said, it's opening up that world to them, remembering, I mean, one thing I do, which is really good for them, is a listening exercise where I take different genres of music. I always throw a salsa one in there, just something really crazy that they can just be like, somebody like Arriba shouting or something, with some weird sound effects, and get them to tell me what they think the tempo is, but I'll give them multiple choice. I don't want to get them the anxiety up. So I'll give them multiple choice with the tempo. I don't expect them to know, but I expect them to be able to make a choice out of 3 things. That's really them just engaging. And that's, from the tempo. I'll also ask them if it's a man or a woman singing. Simple question, but something they can feel confident about getting right. I'll ask them if it's a happy or a sad song, what they think the song is about. And I'll also ask them, because they listen to a lot of hip hop that has effects on the voices, like auto-tune, they can recognize auto-tune on the voice. So I might even say to them, well, I do say, do you hear any effects on the voice? And a lot of them will say, oh, auto-tune, or there's an echo thing. And I'll be like, yep, that's reverb, and I explain certain things to them. Or there might be a rock song with like a really heavy like distortion on it. And they'll be like, I don't know what's going on, but it just kind of sounds a bit weird. And then I can explain to them like what that is as well. So really teaching them listening skills. I mean, when I was at university, I remember sitting down listening to like Vivaldi or something, 4 Seasons. It still haunts me to this day. But I remember having to listen to different instruments that I wasn't used to listening to, and I didn't know music theory that well, and it was really weird for me. But those listening exercises were so essential to me actually, learning anything, because it teaches us that it's okay to sit down, listen, and might not understand what you're listening to, but just the skill of actually listening in and be able to pick out certain instruments, pick out timings, pick out certain things is really what helps them to grow in confidence, also with engaging with you. So you might think, okay, this young person, instead of thinking it's sort of, you're breaking down barriers already of who they are and who you are and what they have to do. Like Harley said, I really love the fact that she expressed to the young people that they didn't, have to take part in something that they probably thought was mandatory. They probably had those authority issues as well. And that the fact that they actually could have a choice in doing it is great, but also to give them a choice in what they listen to. So do they want to do this, or do they want to do that? Do they want to do a popular contemporary song, or do they want to do something that's really classical? Like you can say they don't know anything about, or say they just like hip hop or whatever, but if you go on the table and go, what's that? One of them will say, we will. Right. So we forget how much is in like advertisements, how much is coming on TV, how much they're, into. You could play the EastEnders theme tune, which is depressing, but you could play it and you could tell them, what key that's in and stuff that they're used to hearing. So I really feel like what you said, Claire, is brilliant, because you're looking at ways to engage in that with them that helps them. One thing I didn't say earlier that I wanted to say was, even though it is young people led, I still have some kind of structure, because a lot of the young people I work with have autism and they need some kind of structure. Now I work in the alternative provision, pupil referral units, and a lot of times they are literally running around the building. This is no shade, this is no to anything else, but I see them and I'll be like, aren't you supposed to be in class? And they'll be like, ha, and they'll run off, and I'll be like, all right then, and I'll just walk away. But literally, like, nobody's really worried about too much about where they are, because they're seen as so destructive. They're seen as not having, a really low they're seen as having low concentration. So not much is expected of them, which is why a lot of TAs will say, oh, he won't be interested, or he won't do well. And it's those students that do their best. And I find now I give them structure, and what it does is it stops them from thinking about their own anxiety, their own low self-esteem, and it helps them to actually have something to focus on. So I will come in and say, okay, today, guys, I want you to all sit in your individual chairs, which due to COVID is great because they've all got their own space and have to have their own equipment. And I'll say to them, okay, today we're doing this certain exercise or listening exercise, and then I'll play certain things and get them all to individually tell me what they think. I'll pick them. Sometimes they won't say anything, sometimes they will, but they actually value having that structure, because in the other lessons they don't have it. They get told if they throw a tantrum, it's okay, they can go and do something else. Whereas I'm like, this is enrichment time, which is, I guess, my saving grace, that it's not, curriculum based, it's actually enrichment. So they don't have to do it. They can go and do PE, they can do something else. And I let them know, like Holly said, I'm not forcing you to do it. You really don't have to do it if you don't want to. But if you are here, please engage in one of the ways. And then instead of giving them time to have an emotional reaction, I give them options. Here, do you want the iPad, the drum machine, the guitar, the bass? Do you know what this is? It's a cajon, it's a drum. What's a drum? But do you know about, you get on the drum machine, but do you know what a snare is? No, I don't. Do you know what a kick drum is? well, what do you kick with? My foot. Okay, so you know that a kick drum, something that you use with your foot. Do you know what I mean? I'll pull up a video on YouTube of Stevie Wonder playing the drums. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but see a blind person playing the drums. It's got to give the kids some confidence. You know what I mean? They're like, he's blind, he can do it. And he's a bit amazing, to be fair, at playing the drums. It's not like a regular person. He's like really advanced. But it's just to let them know where the kick and snare is. Sorry, Claire.
So I was just going to joke. It's funny that you just mentioned Stevie Wonder when I was just going to jump in, because of course that's going to inspire anyone. But yeah, he is God to me. But I think what I'm really picking up from everything you're saying, I think we often think that this kind of alternative provision work, or, you know, like this special project work that people tend to think of it, but I just think the whole sector has so much to learn from it, because what I'm really getting from you is it's not just about engagement. We're not only trying to like divert these young people into a positive activity, you're really trying to give them good musical knowledge, but in a different way. That's all. And I think that's just what's really hitting home for me, because I don't want to think of it as being, oh, we'll just go and do this novelty project over here where we're engaging. It's like, no, there's a lot of musical value. And I think, sorry, it's just me like a therapy session now, but I'm now leading a hub, but I'm from a completely informal background. I don't read music. But I still studied it at university. Like, you know, it's this understanding that there's not enough people who understand that you can get to high levels. Not that I say that I'm at that level, but you can study coming from a different way, and there's all different ways of imparting musical knowledge. And I just think that's really helped me today, just reflecting on that there's really good stuff. We're just going to learn it a bit differently and in different zones, or like say different vibes. You know, I probably had another point that I can't remember, but yeah, there's just so much to learn, and I really hope that we can just get more of I just want this stuff to become mainstream. You know, you just want more people to have these skills, so that we're not neglecting the more traditional and formal routes, but that everyone will just be like a multi-purpose music leader. That's the ideal scenario, isn't it? So there we go. I'll see what I can do in Dorset.
Honestly, I think that what you said is brilliant. You've hit the nail on the head. That's what I'm basically trying to get across in my whole how many years of teaching, is that I'm not there to just talk to hard to reach young people and babysit them until the time when they go. I really do actually teach them musical knowledge. When it comes to music technology, I teach them complicated things like quantizing. I teach them rhythm. I teach them tempo. I teach them how to count bars. I teach them different genres of music. You know, I teach them arrangement, so they don't just make a song and make a little beat and go, well, what's next? That's it. You know, I show them examples. I use either videos or I use audio, and make sure that I engage with them as much as I can. But my main goal is to give them something they can have. So as much as I know that the Matt Makes Music goal is to really ensure that we are looking after their social, emotional, mental health, we are doing confidence building. We have outcomes that we put into place before the project's even begun, and that's my priority. But by getting that out, I'm making sure that I do that by actually giving them practical skills that they can use. And what really warms my little heart, to be fair, is when I've taught them something and years later I'll come back and they'll go, oh yeah, you know, I remember what you told me, and I went to the studio and I tried it and I made this track and now I can do. And even if you just open that door up to their creativity, you never know where that's going to lead them, you know, down the road, and in terms of engaging with other people. So you are a breath of fresh air, Claire, and I feel like you really just sort of get it. And I know, I'm sorry, but you are. And it's really been like a pleasure to hear what you've had to say, because like I said, we're all really, really relevant in this exchange. And the things that you say definitely do help me to reflect on my own practice as well, and also to look at different ways to improve it. I'm not by all means a person that thinks I know it all. I just know, like I said, especially COVID has taught us all that we all need to always be open, be flexible, and learn something new. And I'd advise you all to check out One Motion. I've actually put 3 apps in the chat for you guys, if I can scroll and find them. One of them is Launchpad, which we use. Now, Launchpad is like a little grid. You can download that on your app store as well. It's very easy to use because it has built-in drum loops. So you just press different pads and automatically it's going, and you can put vocals in, you can put effects. So it's really easy to get the young person to start something and feel confident because it sounds good straight away. Thumb Jam is another one that's really good to check out. Thumb Jam's a little bit more complex. Take your time with that. It's got some really good settings, but I would say play around and see what's best for you. And Playground is a brilliant app, because Playground, you literally hold your finger on the screen and drag stuff around. So I'd like to also remind you guys that a lot of the young people are so used to just using their thumbs these don't exist. It's just these in their little world. This is for gaming. This is for phones. So any apps that you can get where they can literally just tap a button and make a beat, you're going to get their engagement more than if you ask to do something that perhaps uses a mouse, which might sound like a really small thing, but it's just to make sure they're comfortable. They're used to holding their phones. They're used to doing this. So get an app where they can go boom, cat, boom, 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 cat, boom, boom. And there's loads, if you just go into App Store and type in drum making beats. I know we've been using these lovely Macs with Matt Makes Music here, and we've got quite a few apps on this as well. But there is also some that have been updated since we've got that. So I'm going to download some later on and just update these as well. But the ones that we have, I tried and tested the ones I've given you. So these are the ones I use in Make Music all the time. And these are the ones I know work with young people. But feel free to experiment. And also remember, if you find an app that you are unsure of, it's good, because this is how the young person feels when you ask them to use an app. You've got to feel that same vulnerability they feel, you know. That's why I started learning open chords on the guitar and open chords and different things, because I'm a music technology person. But if I'm asking a young person to play along and jam, I need to know what that feels like to be, you know, a fish out of water, so to speak, and be vulnerable as well. So please do experiment, but also know that you guys are more technical than you believe or than you think as well. Just the fact you got on Zoom is a skill that some people don't even still find very confusing. So find apps that really work for you, even though I've suggested those apps. If you find something that's more simple to use, or something that you feel most of all your students engage with. So like I said about experimenting, experiment with your students with different apps, which is why I wanted to give Holly a list, because it's stuff that I use and stuff I've heard about and stuff I know works, etc. Because I feel like it's really important to have a variety and go with your own learning, as in, you know, what's right for you. I know we haven't got that much time, but has anyone got any other questions they wanted to ask, or anything they want to say before
I had a quick point just about what you said about anxiety and how you asked questions and offered sort of options and that type of thing. And that's just something to bear in mind. Like, Nicole, you've done trauma training. We've done a lot around attachment theory in the past, and looking into like ACEs, so adverse childhood experiences, and having a really sound knowledge of some of the experiences or some of the ways the young people might have developed, or might just have experience in their life, is really useful to know as well. So particularly, Claire, if you've got like teams of people starting new work, having that good grounding of like the non-musical background stuff is really helpful, particularly when like, so we worked with a chap with oppositional defiance disorder, and for him, like, it was really helpful to have choices, but the centre were using a particular like way of working with him, where they say it was a young chap in the primary school, but like if they wanted him to write anything for English, they would, so he felt in control rather than being told. They were always like, you can write 5 lines or 3 lines. They only ever wanted 3 lines, but he had the choice to do that. But knowing a bit more about the young people and how they work in the other parts of their life is super helpful. So any sort of training, there's loads of free stuff online around ACEs and attachment theory, and like the Thrive approach. A lot of the centres we work with are starting to look into that as well, or adopting that, and that's all about like the holistic child. But stuff about like the brain and how people's development might have been delayed or affected because of their experiences really shows you then how fight or flight might come into things in unexpected places, and help you manage those reactions and sort of de-escalate before it gets to that point, so you're not putting somebody in a position which might be quite uncomfortable.
Yes, I'll just add one more thing to that, and that is when you're in person as well, doing these kind of sessions with vulnerable young people, and I have quite a few trauma training as well from Matt Makes Music. Be aware of if a young person, you know, just feel like they're opening up to you, it won't just be for music, it will be personally. If they're telling you something that's quite vulnerable that you feel like you might have to pass on, it's something that, one, you don't turn your back to the rest of the class and sort of separate yourself and just be in a place, because you might, you know, just start caring, oh my God, that happened. And you naturally get that body language, you know, because you care, basically, you know, just be very mindful of not isolating, you know, that child isolating you rather, and just taking a lot of your time on that, and really focus on the fact that, you know, you're there to ease their stress through the actual music making. Because I have a lot of young people that, you know, feel like they trust me and they want to tell me lots of stuff, which is which is brilliant for them to open up. I've also got to always steer it back to the actual, the room, the music making process, and not to get too caught up in that, because you can get into situations where, you know, they're telling you, you know, something that you have to then pass on to somebody else. And it's not that that won't happen anyway, but just so you're not spend too much time on that side, even though it's really important to remember that the most important thing is that your skill is taking the mind off by doing the music making activity, which I might be preaching to the choir, but you know, because these young people have quite a lot of you know, things that they're going through, and they really do feel safe opening up to you. It's the fact that yes, you do care and you will listen, but really just be mindful of your space in the room, you know, your proximity to them as well, and you know, the attention that you might have to just give to them and not other people. See if there's a TA you can, you know, take to the side and say, this person's talking about this, or you know what, we'll get back to that later. Thank you for telling me though, that sounds, you know, very serious. Okay, so today, yeah, something to, you know, be very mindful basically of your time is what I would say, because we only have a limited amount of time with the music making. So as much as it's social and emotional, remember that's how we're helping them, is through the music. Does that sound, do you know what I mean?